I came home after a 26-hour nursing shift to find a second refrigerator in my kitchen. My son's wife said, with a dismissive air, "That one's mine. From now on, buy your own food." She had put little labels with her name on everything I had bought, forgetting that they were living there without paying a dime in rent. So I prepared a surprise that would be a rude awakening for them both. I got home after 26 straight hours at the hospital. 26 hours of saving lives, holding trembling hands, and cleaning wounds that were not my own. My feet were on fire inside those white shoes that had once been new. My back was a single, tight knot of pain. My hands smelled of disinfectant and that bone-deep weariness you feel when you are not young anymore. I am 67 years old. I am a nurse, and I thought the hardest parts of my life were already behind me. I was wrong. When I opened the door to my kitchen, the one I had cleaned 1,000 times, where I had cooked for my son's every birthday, where I had mourned my husband's death, I saw something that did not belong. A refrigerator, new, shiny, and silver, standing right next to my old one. I just stood there in the doorway, my bag hanging from my shoulder, trying to make sense of it. Had they bought a new refrigerator without telling me? What for? Ours worked perfectly fine. Then I heard her voice. "That one's mine, Jessica, my daughter-in-law," said. She came out of the hallway with that look I knew all too well, a mix of disdain and boredom, as if I were nothing more than an annoying fly in her space. "I'm sorry." "What?" I asked. My voice came out raspy. I had not spoken to anyone outside the hospital for hours. "The fridge. It's mine." She crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "From now on, you buy your own food, Grace." She did not call me Mom or Mrs. Ochoa. She used my first name, as if we were roommates, as if this was not my house. I opened the old fridge, my fridge, and the air rushed out of my lungs. Everything, absolutely everything I had bought 3 days before had a little yellow sticky note on it with her name written in black marker. Jessica. The cheese, the tomatoes, the yogurt, the can of beans, the chicken, even the stick of butter. "What is this?" I whispered. "Just what I said. This is my food. You buy your own." She shrugged. "It's not fair that I have to share what I buy with my money." Her money. Jessica did not have a job. She had not worked a single day since she married my son 2 years ago. Ethan was the one who supposedly brought in the money, although lately, that money seemed to be coming from my own savings account every time I loaned them some for gas, for groceries, for some emergency. Ethan. I tried to call for my son, but he was already there, standing in his bedroom doorway, looking at me with eyes I no longer recognized. The same eyes that had looked at me with so much love when he was a boy. Now there was only discomfort. "Mom, don't make a scene. Jessica's right. Everyone should buy their own stuff. It's more organized this way." I felt the floor shift beneath me. "But I bought this. I paid for this week's groceries. And that's why it has your name on it, isn't it?" Jessica said, pointing to the labels. "Now we all know what belongs to who. It's easier." I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip off every single one of those damn yellow labels and throw them in her face. But I was so tired. So terribly, terribly tired. I just nodded. I went to my room. I closed the door. And for the first time in years, I sat on the edge of my bed and let myself feel the full weight of what had just happened. They were living in my house. The house I bought by myself, on a nurse's salary, after my husband died and left me with nothing but debt and an 8-year-old son with chronic asthma. I worked double shifts, triple shifts. I scrubbed hospital floors at 3 a.m. to pay the mortgage. I skipped meals so Ethan could have his medication. And now they were making me pay to eat in my own kitchen. I took off my shoes. My feet were swollen, red. I had a new blister on my left heel. I could not even remember when I had gotten it. I heard laughter from the living room. Jessica and Ethan were watching television. I heard the sound of the microwave, the smell of popcorn that I could not eat because it had her name on it. I closed my eyes, and in that silence, in the darkness of my own room, something inside me began to change. I did not know it yet, but that night, exhausted and humiliated, was the last night I would let them treat me like a stranger in my own home. Because sometimes, silence is not surrender. Sometimes, it is just the calm before the storm. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe to the channel to stay with me until the end. Because what is coming next, nobody saw it coming. Not even me. I thought the labels were the lowest they could go. That they could not sink me any further. How naive I was. 3 days later, I came back from another shift at the hospital. This time, only 12 hours. But it had been 12 hours of hell. A little girl with severe burns. An old man who died while I held his hand because he had no family. I came home wanting nothing more than a hot cup of tea and some quiet. I went into the bathroom, and there they were. More yellow labels. On the shampoo, on the bar of soap, on the toothpaste. Even on the toilet paper. Jessica. I stood there, frozen, staring at my own toothbrush. The only item without a label, as if it were the last thing I had left in the world. I walked out of the bathroom. I went to the kitchen. The pots had labels. The pans, the glasses, the plates. I opened the silverware drawer. Even the forks, the damned forks. Looking for something? Jessica's voice came from right behind me. I jumped. I had not heard her come in. Jessica, this is too much. Too much? She tilted her head with that smile that never reached her eyes. Grace, I'm just protecting my things. You know how it is. Sometimes things get lost, mixed up. This way, everyone knows what belongs to them. But I bought these pots. I bought these plates. 20 years ago. Oh. She shrugged. Then you should put your name on them too. I put mine on what's mine. And what exactly did you buy? The words came out sharper than I intended. Her eyes narrowed. Watch your tone, mother-in-law. I'm your son's wife. I deserve some respect. Respect. That word echoed in my head as she turned around and went back to the living room where the television was still on at full volume. That night, Jessica cooked. The smell filled the whole house. Pot roast. My favorite pot roast. The one I had taught her how to make when they were first married. In those early months, when we were still pretending to be a happy family, I stayed in my room. My stomach was growling. I had not had dinner. I only had coffee at the hospital. I thought about going out, about getting a small plate. It was pot roast. She had used my recipe. But I did not. I could not. Not after the labels. Not after understanding that every bite I took from that kitchen would be a defeat. I heard their laughter. Ethan and her. They were talking about a television series, about taking a vacation to Miami. When we sell your mom's car, we could have enough for the hotel, Jessica said. Silence. I don't know if she wants to sell it, Ethan replied, his voice weak. Oh, honey, that car is old. She hardly ever uses it. We need it more than she does. I did not hear what my son said back. I only heard that he did not defend me. The next morning, I went downstairs early. I had the day off. I needed to talk to Ethan. Alone. Without her. I found him in the kitchen, drinking coffee. My coffee. From my coffee maker, which now had a yellow label on it. Son, we need to talk. He looked up. I saw the dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired, older than his 32 years. Mom, if this is about the labels. It's not just about the labels, Ethan. It's about everything. I sat down across from him. It's about how you talk to me. About how you treat me. This is my house. I know that. Do you? Do you really? Because it doesn't seem like it. I took a deep breath. You don't pay rent. You don't pay utilities. You don't pay the property taxes. Nothing. And now it turns out I can't even use my own soap. He rubbed his face. Mom, Jessica is my wife. I have to support her. If you don't like how she manages things, then maybe you should think about finding your own place. The world stopped. My own place? I don't mean it in a bad way, but we're a young couple. We need our space, privacy. We can't always be worrying about whether you're bothered by how we organize the house. My house, Ethan. My house. I know it's your house legally, Mom. You don't have to repeat it. His tone became irritated. But it's also where I live, where my wife lives. And frankly, sometimes I feel like Jessica is right. You're very old-fashioned. You don't understand how modern families work. I stood up. I did not say another word. What was there to say? I went up to my room. I pulled a box out of the closet, a box I had not opened in years. Inside were photos. Ethan as a baby. Ethan with his nebulizer, those huge eyes looking at me with fear every time he could not breathe. Ethan at his middle school graduation. At his first communion. At the hospital. After the surgery that saved his life when he was 11 years old. The surgery that cost $28,000. That I paid for by selling my car. By taking out loans. By working at 2 hospitals at once. I ran my fingers over the photos. And for the first time in years, I did not feel love. I felt something colder. More dangerous. I felt clarity. Because my son had just told me to find another place to live. In the house that I bought. With the money I earned taking care of sick people while he slept peacefully, knowing his mother would never let him fall, I put the photos away. That night, Jessica cooked again. This time, lasagna. The smell was a dagger in my empty stomach. I did not leave my room. I stayed there in the darkness, listening to their laughter, and I began to plan. Because if 39 years of being a nurse had taught me anything, it was this: you do not cure pain by ignoring it. You cure it by cutting out what is rotten. And in that house, something had gone rotten. But what I found 2 days later, hidden in my son's drawer, would change everything forever. On Saturday, I decided to clean. Not because the house needed it, but because I needed to do something with my hands. Something to make me feel like I still had control over some corner of my own life. Jessica and Ethan had gone out. To look at some things for the apartment, they said. I did not ask what apartment. I did not ask anything anymore. I started in the living room, then the bathroom. Then I stopped in front of Ethan's bedroom door. His room, the one that had been his since he was 8 years old. The one I painted blue, because it was his favorite color. The one we filled with soccer posters, and then rock band posters. I went in. The bed was unmade. Clothes were thrown on the floor. It smelled of that sweet perfume Jessica wore. Nothing of my son's smell. The boy who smelled like soap and dirt after playing outside. I started picking up. I folded the clothes. I made the bed. I dusted the furniture. And then I saw the nightstand drawer, slightly ajar. I was not going to open it. I really was not. But something inside glinted. The afternoon sun was hitting it directly, and that flash caught my attention. I opened the drawer. Papers. Lots of messy papers. Old receipts. Printed photos of Jessica at the beach, in expensive restaurants, at bars. All recent. All while I was loaning them money for gas. I kept looking, not knowing exactly what I was looking for. And then I saw it. A manila envelope. Thick. With my name written on top in Ethan's handwriting. Mom. Important documents. I took them out with trembling hands. Inside were the deeds to the house. The ones I kept in my room. In my filing cabinet. How did they get here? Underneath the deeds was another document. A promissory note. Notarized. Dated 2 years ago. Loan. $45,000. Debtor. Ethan Renteria. Creditor. Grace Renteria. Purpose. Initial investment for auto parts, import business. I remembered everything. 2 years ago, Ethan had come to me, excited. He had a plan. A friend had proposed a business to him, importing car parts from Mexico. He was going to be a millionaire. He just needed $45,000 to start. I had that money. I had saved it for 10 years. It was for my retirement, for when I could not work anymore. But he was my son. My only son. I'll pay you back in 6 months, Mom. With interest. You'll see. We signed it before a notary because he insisted. So you see I'm serious, he said. The business never worked out. The friend disappeared with part of the money. Ethan never spoke of the loan again. And I never asked him about it. Because he was my son. And a mother does not charge for what she gives with love. Or does she? I kept looking through the envelope. There were more papers. Bank statements. From 6 months ago. An account I did not know about. In Ethan's name. With regular deposits of $1,500, $2,000. Where was that money coming from if he supposedly was not working? And at the very bottom, a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. It was a printout of text messages between Ethan and Jessica. Jessica, I already talked to the real estate agent. He says this house, in this neighborhood, is worth about $300,000. Ethan, that's a lot. Jessica, that's my point, honey. Your mom is getting old. She's not going to live forever. And when she passes, who's she going to leave the house to? Ethan, me. I'm an only child. Jessica, exactly. But why wait? Convince her to sell it. We'll tell her it's so she can move to a smaller place, easier to take care of. She keeps $100,000. We keep $200,000. And with that, we can start our real life. Far away from here. Ethan, I don't know. She's going to be mad. Jessica, she'll get over it. Besides, what's she going to do? Kick us out? You're her son. She's not going to leave you on the street. We'll give her a few months of the special treatment. Soften her up. And that's it. Ethan, special treatment? Ha ha ha. Jessica, you'll see. In 2 months, she'll be begging us to help her sell. The date of the message. 3 months ago. The labels had appeared 2 weeks after that conversation. I dropped the papers. I sat down on my son's bed, and I began to shake. Not from fear, from rage. Pure boiling rage that rose from my stomach to my throat. They were pushing me out of my own house. With a plan. Step by step. Humiliation by humiliation. And my son. My son knew. He had planned it. I took pictures of everything with my phone. The messages. The promissory note. The bank statements. The deeds that had no business being in that drawer. I put everything back exactly as I had found it. I closed the drawer. I left the room. And I went down to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped it. I looked around. The 2 refrigerators. The yellow labels on everything. The house I bought with my pain. With my night shifts. With my knees. Ruined from standing for 12 hours a day. The house where I raised my son alone after his father died. The son who now wanted to sell it, to go away with his wife. Far away from me. I wiped away tears I did not know were falling. And in that moment, something inside me broke for good, but not in the way they expected. I did not break down. I broke forward. Because one thing is to forgive. Another thing is to be a fool. And I had been a fool long enough. I took out my phone. I searched online. Eviction lawyer, Charlotte. Several names came up. I chose one. Mr. David Clark. Good reviews. An office near downtown? I dialed. A secretary answered. The Clark Law Group, good afternoon. Good afternoon. My voice sounded steady. Surprisingly steady. I need an urgent appointment. I want to evict someone from my property. Is it a tenant? No. It's my son. There was a brief silence. I see. When can you come in? Tomorrow, if possible. Let me check. Yes, we have an opening at 11 in the morning. I'll be there. I hung up. I heard the front door open. They were back. We're home, Jessica shouted in that sing-song voice she used when she was in a good mood. Grace, is there anything for dinner? I took a deep breath. I walked out of the kitchen with a smile. Not yet. Do you want me to make something? Jessica looked at me, surprised. Ethan, too. Yeah. Whatever's fine, my son said. Perfect. I nodded. I'll make you some eggs. It'll be ready in a moment. They looked at me strangely. Of course they did. I had barely spoken to them for days, barely left my room. But now I was smiling. Because now I knew something they did not know. Wars are not won by the one who shouts the loudest. They are won by the one who strikes when the enemy lets their guard down. That night I made them dinner. I set the table. I even washed the dishes. Jessica and Ethan exchanged confused glances. Are you okay, Mom? He asked. Very well, son. I just thought. You're right. I've been very tense. Sorry about that. Jessica smiled. A victorious smile. I'm glad you understand, Grace. In the end, we all want what's best for the family, right? Of course, I replied, looking her straight in the eye. What's best for the family? I went up to my room, closed the door, and for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. Because tomorrow, the war would begin. And they did not even know they had already lost. What the lawyer told me the next day was the beginning of the end for them. On Monday, at 11 o'clock sharp, I was sitting across from Mr. David Clark. His office smelled of coffee and old paper. He had a huge bookshelf filled with legal codes. On the wall, his law degree hung next to a picture with the governor. He looked serious, but his eyes were kind. "Tell me everything, Mrs. Renteria. Take your time." And I told him. The labels, the messages, the loan they never paid back, the house in my name, everything. He took notes, nodding from time to time. When I finished, he took off his glasses and looked at me intently. "Do you have proof of all this?" "I have pictures of the messages. I have the notarized promissory note for the loan. I have the deeds to the house. Everything is in my name. Do they pay rent? No. Nothing? Utilities? Not those either. I pay for everything. Electricity, water, gas, property taxes, internet, everything." He nodded slowly. "Ma'am, legally, you have every right to evict them. It's your property. They don't have a lease agreement. They don't pay for anything. They are what we call occupants without title." He paused. "But he's your son. Are you sure about this?" I was silent for a moment. Was I sure? I thought about the yellow labels, about the messages planning to sell my house, about Ethan telling me to find another place. "Yes," I replied. "I'm sure." "All right. I'll need you to sign a power of attorney. We'll start the legal process. It will take a few weeks, but we can speed things up if they don't cooperate." He opened a folder. "We can also file a claim for the loan. With interest, we'd be talking about, let me calculate, around $62,000. The figure made my head spin. "That much? Interest accumulates, ma'am." "And your son signed a legal promissory note. That's money you can claim." I signed the papers. I paid the retainer for his fees, $1,500, money I had saved for emergencies. This was an emergency. I left the office with a strange feeling in my chest, as if I had just jumped out of an airplane without being sure if the parachute would open. But there was no turning back now. That same night, I got home later than usual. I had stopped by the grocery store. I bought my things. My own. The ones I would label if necessary. When I opened the door, I heard voices in the living room. Many voices. I walked in and froze. Jessica's parents, Mark and Sharon, were sitting on my couch as if they owned the place. "Ah, the mother-in-law has arrived," Sharon said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Good evening," I murmured. "Grace, come, sit down," Jessica said, pointing to a chair, a single chair in my own living room while they occupied the couches. Saturday. What else could I do? "Look, Grace," Mark began, a heavy-set man with a mustache and a booming voice. "We've gathered here because we need to talk about something important, as a family. Jessica told us about the situation," he continued. "And we understand that it's difficult for you, but you have to be reasonable." "Reasonable about what?" I asked. "About the space," Sharon chimed in. "This house is big, yes, but 3 adults living together is complicated. The kids need their privacy. They're at an age to start their own family, and you, well, you're in a different stage of life now." I felt my blood boil. "Another stage?" "Don't take it the wrong way," Mark said. "We're just saying it might be better for everyone if you considered options." "What options?" Jessica leaned forward. "There are some very nice retirement communities, Grace. Places where you'd be with people your own age. With nurses. Activities. You wouldn't be lonely." "A nursing home," I said, my voice flat. "It's not a nursing home," Ethan said quickly. "They're like communities. And you wouldn't have to go far. There's one here in Charlotte, just off the highway. We went to see it. It's nice." "You went to see it?" I repeated. "Without me?" An uncomfortable silence. "We wanted to surprise you," Jessica said. "Look, we even took pictures." She showed me her phone. Photos of a gray building with gardens, small rooms, elderly people in wheelchairs. I saw myself there, in that place, waiting to die. "And this house?" I asked, my voice trembling. Well, Ethan scratched the back of his neck. Jessica and I would stay here. Eventually, maybe, we'd sell it. Get something smaller, but that would be later. Of course, I said. Later. The important thing is that you would be well taken care of, Sharon insisted. And the kids could start their real life. And who would pay for this community? I asked. More silence. Well, you have your pension from the hospital, Jessica said. And if you sell your car, you could cover the first few months. We'll figure it out after that. We'll figure it out. My car. The one I bought 5 years ago. The only luxury I had given myself in decades. And if I sell the car, how would I get to work? I still work, in case you've forgotten. Oh, Grace, Sharon sighed. At your age, you should be thinking about retiring, enjoying life. I'm 67 years old. Not 80, I snapped. But you work too much, Jessica said in a syrupy voice. You get tired, you get sick. Wouldn't it be better to rest? I looked at my son. He was not looking at me. He was looking at the floor. Is that what you want, Ethan? For me to leave? He looked up. I saw something in his eyes. Guilt? Shame? Mom, we just want what's best for you. What's best for me? I stood up. Or what's best for you? Don't start with your drama, Jessica said, rolling her eyes. It's not drama, Jessica. It's a question. What do you gain if I leave? You gain, she exploded. You gain peace of mind. You gain care. You gain not having to clean this huge house. This house that I bought. Oh, here we go. Always the same thing. My house, my house. Jessica stood up too. Yes, it's your house. But it's also where your son lives. Or what? Are you going to kick him out? Jessica, calm down, Mark said. I won't calm down. I'm sick of this situation. She turned to me. Ever since I came to this house, I've tried to get along with you. But you just know how to play the victim. Everything has to be your way. Well, no, Grace. You're not the only one living here anymore. And if you can't accept that, then yes, maybe you should find another place. The silence that followed was thick. I looked at Ethan. Do you think the same? He rubbed his face. Mom, I think Jessica has a point. You can't keep controlling everything. This house, yes, you bought it. But it's also my home. And if I want to live here with my wife, that's my decision. Your decision? I felt something crack in my chest. And what am I? An obstacle? Nobody said that, Sharon intervened. It doesn't need to be said, I murmured. I turned around and walked up the stairs. Behind me, I heard Jessica. Oh, now she's mad. She'll get over it by tomorrow. And laughter, soft laughter. As if none of this mattered. I went into my room. I locked the door. And this time, I cried. I cried like I had not cried in years. I cried for the son I raised. For the sleepless nights when he had a fever. For the 3 jobs I worked to pay for his school. For every dollar I saved thinking about his future. I cried until there were no tears left. And when I was done, I washed my face. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were red, swollen, deep dark circles. But I also had something new in my gaze. Decision. I took out my phone. I found Mr. Clark's number. I sent him a text. Mr. Clark, proceed with everything. I want them out of my house as soon as possible. The reply came in seconds. Understood, Mrs. Renteria. We'll file the suit tomorrow. I put the phone away. I lay down, and before I fell asleep, I whispered into the darkness. Forgive me, Ethan, but I can't save you from yourself anymore. What happened 3 days later would make Jessica stop smiling forever. The next few days were strange. I acted normal. Too normal. I said good morning. I made my breakfast without complaining about the labels. I left for work. I came back. I shut myself in my room. Jessica was confused. I saw her looking at me several times with a frown, as if trying to figure out what had changed. Ethan simply avoided me. He left early, came back late. When we ran into each other, he would look away. Good. Let them think I had given up. Let them think I had accepted my fate as a burdensome old woman who would soon go quietly to a retirement home. But at night, when they were asleep, I worked. I observed. I listened. I investigated. I figured out their routines. Jessica would get up at noon. She would take a shower in my master bathroom, which now had a lock on the outside, and she would go out. Sometimes to the hair salon, sometimes for coffee with friends. She would come back with shopping bags. Target, Old Navy, brands I could never afford for myself. Ethan would leave early, supposedly to look for a job, but he would come back smelling of beer, of cigarettes, with red eyes. One Tuesday night, while they were watching a movie in the living room, I went into their room again. This time I knew exactly what I was looking for. I checked the pillowcase drawer. I went through the clothes. Nothing. I looked under the bed. Shoeboxes. I opened them one by one. In the third one, I found what I needed. Bank statements. Updated to last month. Regular deposits of $1,800 every 15 days. Where was it coming from? I kept looking. There were receipts. From bars. From expensive restaurants. One from the Marriott Hotel. A hotel? Why did they need a hotel if they lived here? And then I saw a sealed envelope. I opened it. Inside was a brochure from a real estate agency. Condos for pre-sale. A new development downtown. Starting at $280,000. One of the apartments was marked with a red marker. A 3-bedroom. $320,000. On the last page, in Jessica's handwriting, with the sale of the old lady's house, $300,000 approx, minus $100,000 for her, leaves us $220,000. Plus bank loan, $100,000, equals $320,000. Perfect. $100,000 for me. From my $300,000 house, the math of my own betrayal, written in red marker. I took pictures of everything. The bank statements, the brochure, the hotel receipts. I put everything back exactly where it was. I left the room. They were still in the living room. I heard Jessica laughing at something in the movie. I went up to my room. I downloaded the photos to my laptop. I backed them up to the cloud. And then I did something I never thought I would do. I wrote to Brenda. Brenda was my colleague at the hospital. We had worked together for 15 years. She had known Ethan since he was a boy. She had watched him grow up. Brenda, I need a favor. Do you know anyone who can investigate where some bank deposits are coming from? She replied in minutes. My cousin is an accountant. He works for the IRS. What do you need? I need to know if my son is declaring this income and where it's coming from. Send me the details. I'll let you know tomorrow. I sent her pictures of the bank statements. The next morning, Brenda called me during my break at the hospital. Grace, your son is in trouble. What did you find? Those deposits are coming from a shell company, one that's used for fraudulent invoicing. It's tax fraud. If the IRS finds out, he's going to face a huge fine, maybe even jail time. My blood ran cold. Jail? This is serious, Grace. Your son is receiving dirty money. Someone is using him to launder money or evade taxes. And he's the one who's going to pay if this blows up. How do you know he knows? Because he signs the receipts. He has an account where the money goes. He can't say he didn't know. I hung up, trembling. My son was involved in something illegal. That night I came home determined to talk to him. Alone. But when I walked in, I heard raised voices from the kitchen. I told you, you had to be more discreet. Ethan's voice sounded desperate. Don't talk to me like that, Jessica shot back. It's not my fault your mother is so nosy. What happened? Ethan asked. Nothing, it's just... I saw her looking at my phone the other day. I'm sure of it. When I went to the bathroom, my phone was in a different position. You're paranoid. I'm not paranoid. That old woman knows something. I can feel it. Silence. What could she know? Ethan asked. But his voice sounded nervous. I don't know. But we need to speed things up. Talk to her. Convince her to sell the house now. Or to sign it over to you. Something. The longer this takes, the riskier it gets. I can't push her anymore. She's already angry. Well, you find a way. Jessica's voice turned cold. Because if this falls through, Ethan, I'm leaving. I didn't come here to live with your mother forever. I came because you promised me a life, an apartment, trips, and so far all I have are labels in a kitchen that isn't even mine. I love you, Jess. You know that. Love doesn't pay the bills. Money does. I backed away from the door before they could discover me. I went up to my room, my heart racing. I had all the pieces now. The illegal money, the plans to sell the house, the pressure for me to leave. It was all connected. I took out my laptop. I opened a new document. And I started writing a timeline. With dates, with evidence, with photos. Every humiliation, every lie, every yellow label. I spent the whole night doing that, organizing my defense as if it were a case at the hospital, systematizing the pain. At dawn, I printed everything. 3 copies, one for the lawyer, one for me, and one for, well, I would see what it was for. I took a shower. I got dressed. I made coffee. When I went down to the kitchen, Ethan was already there. He looked terrible. Sunken eyes, unshaven. "Good morning," I said calmly. He looked at me, surprised. "Good morning, Mom. I made my breakfast. Toast. Black coffee. Fruit." He kept staring at me. "Are you okay?" he finally asked. I looked him in the eye. "Very well, son." "Why?" "I don't know. You seem different." I smiled. "I slept well. That's all." A lie. I had not slept at all. But he did not need to know that. I finished my breakfast. I washed my plate. I gathered my things. "I'm off to the hospital. I'll be back tonight." "Mom?" He stopped me before I left. "About the other day, about the retirement community. You don't have to decide now." "I know," I replied. "Don't worry about it." And I left. In the car, before starting the engine, I called Mr. Clark. "Mr. Clark, it's Grace. I have more information. I think my son is involved in something illegal. I have proof. Come to the office. Today, if you can. I'm on my way." I hung up. I started the car. And as I drove through the streets of Charlotte, with the morning sun on my face, I felt something I had not felt in months. Power, because I was no longer the foolish old woman who put up with everything for love. Now, I was the lioness protecting what was hers. And no one was going to drive this lioness out of her den. But what was about to come would not just get them out of my house. It would bring them to their knees before me. On Thursday, I returned from a 14-hour shift. It had been brutal. 2 code blues. A patient who did not make it. A family crying in my arms, asking me why God had taken her. I had no answers. I never did. I got home, dragging my feet. Everything hurt. My back, my knees, even my soul. All I wanted was a hot bath and to sleep. I opened the door. The smell hit me first. Food. Roasted chicken. Potatoes. The kind of smell that makes you salivate instantly. I walked into the kitchen, and I froze. My refrigerator was open. Empty. Completely empty. On the floor, next to the trash can, were my things. The yogurt I had bought 2 days ago. The ham. The cheddar cheese. The tomatoes. The tortillas. All thrown into a black garbage bag. "What?" I whispered. "Oh, you're here." Jessica came into the kitchen, wiping her hands on a napkin. She was wearing a new blouse, very expensive. I could tell from the tag still hanging from the collar. "I had to throw out your food." "You did what?" "It had gone bad," she said with a shrug. "It smelled horrible. It was contaminating my refrigerator. You know how it is. When things get mixed, everything ends up smelling bad." "That food was fine. I bought it 2 days ago." "Well, I smelled it, and it was rotten." She looked at me with those cold eyes. "Besides, Grace, I already told you. If you want to store food, buy your own fridge." Like I did. I looked at the trash bag. There it was. My week's worth of groceries. $20 thrown in the trash. Something inside me broke. It was not dramatic. It was not explosive. It was silent, like when a rope that has been stretched too tight finally snaps. It just broke. "Where's Ethan?" I asked in a hollow voice. "In the living room." "Why?" I did not answer. I walked to the living room. My son was sprawled on the couch, looking at his phone, a beer in his hand. The third empty bottle sat on the coffee table. Ethan. He looked up. "What's up, Mom? Your wife threw my food in the trash." "Oh yeah," she told me. It had gone bad. It had not gone bad. "Mom." He sighed as if I were a petulant child. "If Jessica says it was bad, it was bad. She knows about these things. She knows." I felt my voice crack. "I've been buying groceries for 40 years. I think I know when something is rotten. Just drop it." He got up, stumbling a little. He was drunk. "I'm tired of your drama." "My drama?" The words came out like knives. "My drama?" "Ethan, she threw out $20 worth of food, $20 that I earned working, while you sit here drinking beer that I paid for. You didn't pay for this beer. Jessica bought it." "With what money, Ethan? With what money does Jessica buy things if she doesn't work? That's not your problem. Of course it's my problem. You live in my house. You eat my food. You use my utilities." "That's enough," he shouted. For the first time in years, my son shouted at me. "I'm sick of it. Sick of everything being about you. Your house, your food, your money. We get it. You did everything. You're the great martyr, the saintly mother who sacrificed everything." The words hit me like fists. "Ethan, no, I'm tired, Mom. Tired of feeling guilty for existing, of feeling like I owe you every breath because you worked so hard. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for Dad to die. Those were your choices, not mine." The silence that followed was unbearable. Jessica appeared in the doorway. She had a small, triumphant smile on her face. I looked at my son, at this 32-year-old man with eyes red from alcohol and rage, and I did not recognize him. The boy who used to hug my legs when he had nightmares. The teenager who brought me flowers on Mother's Day with his first paycheck. The young man who cried on my shoulder when his first girlfriend left him. That boy was gone. In his place was a stranger who hated me. "All right," I said, my voice so low I could barely hear myself. "All right." I turned around, went up the stairs, went into my room, locked the door, and then, for the first time in my life, I felt like I could not breathe. Not physically. My lungs were working, but something deeper, something in the center of my chest, had closed up. I sat on the bed and took out my phone. With trembling hands, I called my sister, Carol. She lived in Chicago. We did not see each other much, but we had always been there for each other. "Grace? What's wrong?" she answered, worried. It was 10 o'clock at night, and then I fell apart. I told her everything. Between sobs, between gasps, the labels, the messages, the loan, the food in the trash, Ethan's words. She did not interrupt, just listened. When I finished, there was silence. "Grace," she finally said, her voice serious, "you have to get him out of your house. He's my son. He's a freeloader. And that woman is a snake. They're going to leave you with nothing, and when they do, they'll leave. And you'll be left alone. Without a house, without money, without anything. But—" "No buts, sister. I know you love him, but love can't be this blind. Sometimes, loving someone means letting them fall. It's the only thing that wakes them up." I cried harder. I can't do that to him. Then prepare to lose everything, because that's what's going to happen." She hung up. I stayed there, alone, in the darkness, with the phone in my hand. And for the first time, I had a terrible thought. I thought, what if I leave? What if I leave them the house and just go? It would be easier, less painful. I could rent a small room, work until I retire, die peacefully, knowing I did not break my family. But then I remembered something. I remembered the day I bought this house. Ethan was 12. We had been renting a horrible apartment in a dangerous neighborhood for 2 years. But I had saved, dollar by dollar, for 5 years. The day I signed the deeds, I came home crying with happiness. "My son," I told him, "we have a house. A real house. No one can take it from us." He hugged me. He smelled like kids' soap and dreams. "No one, Mom? Not even if we don't pay rent?" "No one, because it's ours, yours and mine." I opened my eyes. Yours and mine, not Jessica's, not her parents', not anyone else's, mine. I got up. I wiped my tears. I opened my dresser drawer. I took out the folder where I had all the evidence, the photos, the documents, and I took out something else, the original deeds to the house, the ones I had retrieved from Ethan's room and kept in mine. I opened them. There was my name, Grace Renteria, owner. I ran my fingers over the letters. 40 years of work, 40 years of pain, 40 years of sacrifice. It was all in this paper, and nobody was going to take it from me. I took my phone. I found the text chat with Mr. Clark. I wrote, "Mr. Clark, I need to see you tomorrow. Urgent. We're moving forward with everything. What happened, Mrs. Renteria? I'm done waiting. I want them out of my house next week. Understood. First thing tomorrow. I'll prepare the documents." I put the phone away. I lay down. And this time, I did not cry, because the tears had run out. In their place was something harder, colder, determination. My son thought I was weak, that I would give up. But he forgot something. He forgot that women who raise children alone, who work 3 jobs, who endure pain and keep standing, we do not break. We transform. And when someone touches what we love most, we become relentless. Ethan was about to learn something I had taught him when he was a boy. Every action has a consequence, and his were just about to arrive. What I did on Saturday morning made Jessica lose that smile forever. On Friday at 8 in the morning, I was sitting across from Mr. Clark. This time, I was not trembling. I was not crying. I was as steady as a rock. "Mrs. Renteria, I've prepared everything." He placed several documents on the desk. "Here is the eviction notice. Here is the lawsuit for the defaulted loan. $62,000 with interest. And here," he pulled out another paper, "is the lawsuit for moral damages and improper use of property. We've estimated $15,000 in addition." "Moral damages?" I asked. "You have suffered psychological abuse in your own home. Systematic humiliation. That has legal value." He looked at me seriously. "If we take this to trial, we could win even more. But I warn you, it will be long, painful, and public." "How long?" 6 months, maybe a year. I shook my head. "I don't have a year. I need them out now." "Then we have another option." He leaned back in his chair. "We confront them. We show them all the evidence. We make it clear that either they leave peacefully or we destroy them legally. With the evidence you have, especially about the illegal money, your son could go to jail." The word jail hit my chest. "I don't want him to go to jail. I know, but he doesn't have to know that." Mr. Clark leaned forward. "Fear can be more effective than any trial. If he believes he could go to prison, he'll cooperate. And if he doesn't, then we proceed with everything. Without mercy." He paused. "Ma'am, I know he's your son, but if you don't set boundaries now, they will destroy you. They will sell your house. They will leave you on the street. And they won't look back." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. "Let's do it. But I want to be there. I want to see their faces when they find out." "Are you sure?" "Completely." I signed the papers. All of them. The eviction notice. The lawsuit for the loan. Everything. Mr. Clark put them in a manila envelope. "When do you want us to serve them?" "Tomorrow, Saturday morning. When they're home, relaxed, confident." He nodded slowly. 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'll come personally with a process server." "Will you be there?" "I'll be there." That night, I got home earlier than usual. Jessica was in the living room, painting her nails. Ethan was asleep on the couch with his mouth open. "Hi," I said. Jessica barely looked at me. "Hi." I went up to my room, but not to hide. This time, to plan. I pulled an old suitcase out of the closet. I started packing my most important things. Documents, photos, clothes, my hospital uniforms. Everything I did not want them to touch. Because tomorrow, after the notice was served, I did not know what might happen. I stored the suitcase under the bed. Then I did something I never do. I opened my jewelry box. The one my mother gave me before she died. There were few things inside. A gold ring, my wedding earrings, a thin chain, and a photo. An old, faded photo of my husband, Robert. smiling. With baby Ethan in his arms, I took it out. I looked at it for a long time. "Forgive me, my love," I whispered. "I know you wanted me to take care of our son, but I think taking care of him now means letting him go, letting him fall, so he can learn." I put the photo away. I closed the jewelry box. And that night, for the first time in weeks, I slept deeply, without nightmares, without tears, because there was nothing left to decide. The decision had been made. On Saturday, I woke up at 7 in the morning. I showered. I dressed in my best clothes. Black pants, a white blouse, closed-toe shoes. I did my hair. I put on a little lipstick. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw a different woman. I was not the exhausted nurse. I was not the humiliated mother. I was Grace Renteria, owner of this house, a woman who raised a son alone, a woman who saved lives, a woman who was not going to be walked over anymore. I went down to the kitchen. I made coffee. I made scrambled eggs. I heated tortillas. Ethan came down with puffy eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked, surprised. "Making breakfast. Want some?" "Yeah." I served him. He ate in silence, glancing at me sideways. Jessica came down half an hour later. She was wearing a pink silk robe, a clean face. Without makeup, she looked younger, almost vulnerable. "Good morning," I said. "Good morning," she replied, suspicious. "What are we celebrating?" "Nothing. I just felt like making a nice breakfast." I served her too. "Sit down." She sat, but did not touch her food. "What do you want, Grace?" "Want? Nothing. Can't I make you breakfast?" "You can, but it's weird. You've barely spoken to us for weeks, and now, this." I smiled. "Maybe I'm just tired of fighting." Ethan and Jessica exchanged glances. At 9:30, my phone rang. It was Mr. Clark. "Mrs. Renteria, we're arriving." "Perfect. I'll open the door." I hung up. "Who was that?" Ethan asked. "No one important." I stood up. "I'll get the door. I'm expecting a delivery." I went to the door. I opened it. There they were, Mr. Clark in his gray suit and a younger man with a briefcase. The process server. "Good morning, Mrs. Renteria." "Good morning. Please, come in." They entered. Ethan came out of the kitchen. "Who are you?" he asked. Mr. Clark spoke in a clear, professional voice. "Good morning. I am David Clark, an attorney. I am here to serve notice to Ethan Renteria and Jessica Salinas de Renteria regarding a legal action filed by Mrs. Grace Renteria." The silence that followed was absolute. Jessica appeared in the kitchen doorway. "A lawsuit? What are you talking about?" The process server took the documents out of his briefcase. "Ethan Renteria is hereby notified of 1. Immediate eviction from the property located at 847 Juarez Avenue, Charlotte. 2. A lawsuit for non-payment of a loan documented before a notary public. Total amount due, $62,000. 3. A lawsuit for moral damages and improper use of private property, estimated amount, $15,000. Ethan turned pale. "Mom, what is this?" "This," I said in a firm voice, "is the end." Jessica snatched the papers from the process server's hands. "This is crazy. You can't sue us. We're your family." "Family." I repeated the word as if it were poison. Family that put labels on my own food. Family that planned to sell my house out from under me. Family that threw $20 worth of my food in the trash. "Mom, wait." Ethan took a step toward me. "We can talk. You don't have to do this." "There's nothing left to talk about, Ethan. You had months to talk. You had 1,000 opportunities to treat me like your mother, and you chose to treat me like trash." "That's not true. I love you." "You love me?" The laugh that escaped me sounded bitter. "You loved me so much, you told your wife to convince me to sell my house. You loved me so much, you told me to find another place to live. You loved me so much, you screamed that you didn't ask to be born." He fell silent. "Mr. Clark continued, you have 72 hours to vacate the property. If you do not do so voluntarily, we will proceed with a judicial eviction. Furthermore, Mr. Renteria has 30 days to respond to the loan lawsuit. Otherwise, we will proceed with the seizure of assets. We have nowhere to go, Jessica screamed. That is not my client's problem, Mr. Clark replied coldly. You have family, you have options, but you no longer have the right to be here. You're a monster, Jessica spat at me. A bitter old woman who can't stand to see her son happy. I looked her straight in the eye. No, I'm a woman who will no longer allow herself to be walked over in her own house. I turned around. I went up the stairs. Behind me, I heard shouts, cries, pleas. I closed my bedroom door, I sat on the bed, and I breathed. For the first time in months, I truly breathed, because the weight I had been carrying for so long had finally been lifted. I was no longer their victim. I was their judge. But what I found at my door 3 hours later would make me question everything. 3 hours after the lawyer left, everything was silent. A thick, dangerous silence. I stayed in my room, listening, waiting. I heard hurried footsteps, doors slamming, Jessica crying, Ethan talking on the phone in a desperate voice. And then, nothing. I peeked out the window. The car was still in the driveway. They had not left. I went downstairs carefully. The living room was empty. The kitchen, too. Then I saw something on the refrigerator door. A note, written in Ethan's handwriting. Mom, we went to Jessica's parents. We'll be back tomorrow to talk. Please, reconsider. We're family. Don't do this. I ripped the note off. I balled it up. I threw it in the trash. Family. How easy it was to use that word when it suited you. I spent the rest of Saturday cleaning, taking off all the yellow labels, one by one, with rage, with satisfaction. Every label I tore off was a piece of dignity I was reclaiming. I cleaned out Jessica's refrigerator. I emptied it completely. I threw all her food in the trash. I felt a dark pleasure doing it. Now you know how it feels, I thought. That night, I slept with the door locked. Sunday dawned cloudy. Gray. I got up early. I made coffee. I sat in the kitchen to wait. I knew they would be back. And I was right. At 10 in the morning, I heard the car. Voices. The door opening. They came in. Ethan, Jessica, and her parents. All 4 of them. Mark came in first. His face was red with anger. Where is she? He shouted. I'm right here, I said, coming out of the kitchen. He saw me and advanced. His finger pointed at me. Who do you think you are, suing my daughter? I'm the owner of this house, and your daughter is an abuser. My daughter is not an abuser. You're the one who doesn't know how to live with people. Mark, I said with a calmness I did not know I had. Your daughter put labels on my food. In my own house. She threw my food in the trash. She treated me like garbage. And you? You told me to go to a nursing home so they could have my house. Nobody said that. Sharon intervened. Of course you did. Here, in this living room, 2 weeks ago, we were looking for options. For your own good. For my own good, I repeated. Selling my house is for my own good? Putting me in a nursing home and leaving me with scraps is for my own good? That house is worth $300,000, Jessica yelled. We weren't going to leave you with nothing. Oh, I nodded. You were going to leave me with 100,000? Like it says in your note, the one I found, where you calculated how much you'd have left after selling my house. She fell silent. What note? Ethan asked. The note your wife wrote on a condo brochure, where she planned to steal $220,000 from my own house. It's not stealing, Jessica muttered. We were going to give you your share. My share? The rage rose in my throat. My share of my house? Are you listening to yourself? Mark stepped between us. Look, Mrs. Renteria, I know you're upset, but we can fix this without lawyers, without drama, like civilized people. I don't want to fix anything anymore. Don't be stubborn, he shouted. If this goes to trial, everyone loses. Not me. I have all the proof. Messages, documents, witnesses. I looked at them one by one, and I have something else. Something I discovered this week. Ethan turned pale. Mom, no. Your son, I said, looking at Mark, is receiving illegal money. Deposits from a shell company. Tax fraud. If the IRS finds out, he goes to jail. The silence was absolute. That's a lie, Jessica said, but her voice was trembling. It's not a lie. I have the bank statements. An accountant has already reviewed them. And if this goes to trial, that information will come to light. Ethan sank onto the couch. Mom, I didn't know. A friend offered me that job. I just signed invoices. I didn't know it was illegal. But you signed. And you received the money. And you spent it. My voice was ice. On hotels, on expensive restaurants, on clothes for your wife. While you were telling me you didn't have money to pay the light bill. Stop, Jessica screamed. Stop playing the victim. You're the one destroying this family. I didn't destroy anything. You did. Label by label. Humiliation by humiliation. They were just labels. It's not a big deal. They weren't just labels. I shouted for the first time, and my voice echoed through the house. They were a message that I didn't matter anymore, that in my own home I was a stranger, that everything I built, everything I worked for, everything I sacrificed was worth nothing. The silence that followed was deafening. You have until Tuesday to get out of my house, I said in a firm voice. If you don't, the police will come, the sheriff, and they'll remove you by force. With all your things on the street, for the neighbors to see. Mom, please. Ethan knelt before me. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Please, don't do this. I'm your son. Your only son. Something broke in my chest seeing him like that. But I did not back down. Precisely because you are my son, Ethan. Because I love you. I have to do this. I bent down to be at his level. I spent your whole life saving you. From your illnesses, from your debts, from your mistakes, and all I managed to do was make you believe there would always be someone to clean up your messes. That's not true. Yes, it is. And you know it. I wiped a tear from his cheek. You're 32 years old. You don't work. You live off others. Your wife doesn't work. And you were planning to sell my house to continue living without responsibilities. What kind of life is that? The one we could have? No, the one I allowed you to have. But it's over. I stood up. It's time for you to grow up, son. And if that means losing you, I accept it. You're a monster, Jessica screamed. No, I'm a mother who will no longer allow herself to be used. Mark took a step forward. This isn't over. We're going to hire a lawyer. We're going to fight. Perfect, I replied. My lawyer is waiting. But I warn you. Every day you spend here after Tuesday, I will sue you for damages, $200 a day, plus the $62,000 from the loan, plus the $15,000 for moral damages. Do the math. You have no heart, Sharon whispered. I did, but you broke it into pieces. Now all I have is dignity, and that you will not take from me. I turned around and went up the stairs. Behind me, I heard cries, shouts, curses. I closed my bedroom door. I sat on the bed, and the tears I had held back finally came. Not of sadness, but of liberation. Because finally, I was free. But what happened on Monday night would change everything, and it would make me see my son in a new light. Monday was the longest day of my life. I went to the hospital early, a 12-hour shift. I needed to be away. I needed air. My colleagues noticed something was wrong. Brenda took me to the cafeteria during our break. Grace, you look awful. What happened? I did what you said. I sued them. I'm kicking them out of my house. She hugged me. You did the right thing. Then why do I feel so terrible? Because he's your son. And even though he hurt you, he's still your son. She squeezed my hands. But remember, sometimes letting someone fall is the only way they learn to stand up on their own. I came home at 8 in the evening. Ethan's car was gone. I opened the door, my heart pounding. The house was silent. But something was different. I walked into the living room. Boxes everywhere, folded clothes, objects wrapped in newspaper. They were packing. I went up the stairs. The door to Ethan's room was open. Jessica was there, putting clothes into a suitcase. She saw me and stopped. Happy? She said in a dry voice. We're leaving. Is that what you wanted? I wanted respect. It wasn't too much to ask. Respect. She let out a bitter laugh. You know what? You're right. We're leaving. And you know what else? I'm taking your son far away from you. Ethan makes his own decisions. Oh, really? She crossed her arms. Don't be so sure. Because I value him. I believe in him. Not like you, who only ever reminds him of everything you did for him. As if it were an eternal debt. Her words hit me. I never made him feel that. Of course you did. Every time you talk. I worked. I paid. I sacrificed. Do you know what that does to a person? It makes them feel like they'll never be enough, that they'll never be able to repay you. I was silent. That's why he drinks. That's why he can't get a job. Because he's so afraid of disappointing the great Grace Renteria, the woman who did it all on her own, that he'd rather not even try. That's not… Yes, it is. And deep down, you know it. But it's easier to blame me. To make me the villain. When the truth is, you kept him that way. Dependent. Useless. Because if he grew up, he wouldn't need you anymore. And you need to be needed. I felt the floor move beneath me. Get out of my house, I whispered. With pleasure. She walked out of the room, bumping my shoulder as she passed. I stood there in the hallway, breathing heavily. Was she right? Was all of this my fault? I went downstairs like a zombie. I went into the kitchen. I sat at the table, and then I heard the front door open. It was Ethan. He came in alone, without Jessica. His eyes were red. Mom, I need to talk to you. There's nothing to… Please. His voice broke. Just hear me out. 5 minutes. I nodded without looking at him. He sat down across from me. You're right about everything, he said. Everything. I'm useless. A freeloader. A terrible son. I know. I did not respond. Jessica left me an hour ago. She told me that if I couldn't convince you to drop the lawsuit, she was leaving. I told her I couldn't ask you to do that. And she left. He wiped his eyes. Her parents came to get her. She told me to call her when I grew up and became a real man. But as long as I was living off my mom, she didn't want anything to do with me. I felt a bitter satisfaction. I'm sorry, he continued. I'm sorry for being so weak, so cowardly. I'm sorry for yelling at you that I didn't ask to be born. That was the most horrible thing I've ever said in my life. Tears started to fall down my cheeks. Mom, I did ask to be born, because having you as a mom was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And I ruined everything. Ethan, no. Let me finish. He took a deep breath. That money from the invoices, I did know it was wrong. Not at first, but later, I did. And I kept doing it because it was easy, because it was fast money, and because Jessica wanted things. And I wanted her to see me as someone successful. Son, I'm going to pay the money back. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get out of your house. Not because you're forcing me, but because it's the right thing to do. Because I have to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. He looked me in the eyes. But will you let me stay for 1 week? Just one. To look for a job, to find a room. And then I'll go. I wanted to say no, that it was too late, that the damage was done. But he was my son. And despite everything, he was still my son. 1 week, I said. But under my rules, whatever they are. No alcohol. You look for a job every day. You pay me something for the room, even if it's just $100. And you go to therapy. Therapy? Yes, because Jessica was right about one thing. You and I have things to work out, and we can't do it alone. He was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll do it. And about the loan, I took out my phone. I called Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark, it's Grace. I want you to freeze the loan lawsuit. Don't withdraw it. Just put it on hold. To see what happens. Are you sure? Yes. Understood. And the eviction? I looked at Ethan. On hold, too. For 1 week. As you wish. I hung up. Ethan was looking at me with eyes full of tears. Thank you, Mom. Show me. He nodded. He stood up to leave, but he stopped at the door. Mom, why? Why after everything I've done are you still giving me chances? I looked at him, and for the first time in days, I felt something warm in my chest. Because that's what mothers do, son. Not because it's easy, not because it's fair, but because love, true love, doesn't give up. But it also doesn't let itself be walked all over. And that's the difference you have to learn. He stood there, in the doorway, and for the first time in years, I saw something in his eyes that I had lost. I saw the boy I knew, the boy who hugged me when he was scared, the boy who promised to take care of me when he grew up. That boy was still there, buried under layers of mistakes and lies. But he was there. And for the first time, I had hope. Not that everything would be fixed overnight, but that maybe, just maybe, not all was lost. The next 3 days were strange. Ethan kept his word. He got up early, printed resumes, went out to look for a job. I watched him from a distance. And slowly, very slowly, we started talking. Not about the labels, not about Jessica, not about the past. We just talked, like we had not done in years. On Thursday, he came home with good news. Mom, I got a job at a hardware store. It's not much, but it's a start. I felt pride, genuine pride. That's wonderful, son. That night, we cooked together. I made rice. He prepared the chicken, like when he was a teenager and used to help me in the kitchen. And while we were eating, he told me something that broke my heart. Mom, I found a room. Downtown. It's small, but my salary will cover it. When are you moving? Monday. That is, if you want me to go. I looked at him. Do you want to go? I think so. I think I need to. Because if I stay, I'll fall back into the same patterns. I need to learn to live alone, to pay for my own things, to be responsible. I nodded, though something inside me was breaking. All right. Can I come visit you? On Sundays? Always. This is still your house, but now on different terms. He smiled, a sad but real smile. Thanks, Mom. And in that moment, I knew I had done the right thing. That letting him fall had been the only way for him to learn to fly. But what happened on Sunday, the day before he left, was the real closure we both needed. Sunday dawned. With a bright Sunday, Ethan got up early. I heard him in the kitchen making coffee. I went downstairs. He was there, looking out the window. Good morning, I said. He turned around. He had something in his hand, an envelope. Good morning, Mom. I need to give you this. He handed me the envelope. I opened it. Inside was money, $10 and $20 bills. I counted quickly. $300. What is this? It's what I owe you for this week. $100 for rent and $200 as the first payment on my debt. Ethan, you don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice was firm. I owe you $62,000, right? With interest. Well, I'm going to pay you back. I don't know how long it will take me. Maybe years. But I'm going to do it. I felt a lump in my throat. Son, and I also want to give you this. He took a folded paper out of his pocket. It's a payment plan. I made it with an accountant I met. I can pay you $300 a month. In 18 years, I'll be paid up. 18 years. I looked at the paper. It was all calculated. Date by date. Payment by payment. Ethan, you're 32. In 18 years, you'll be 50. I know, but it's my responsibility. And I'm going to honor it. He paused. Because that's how you taught me. That debts are paid. That promises are kept. And I broke a lot of promises, Mom. But I'm not going to break this one. The tears ran down my cheeks. I hugged him, and he hugged me back. Like when he was a boy. Like when he was scared. Like when he needed me. Only now it was different. Now he did not need me to save him. He was hugging me because he loved me. And that changed everything. That afternoon, I helped him pack his last things. While we were folding clothes, he said, You know, Jessica texted me yesterday. I looked up. What did she want? She asked if you had dropped the lawsuit. I told her no. That you were right. That I had been an idiot. He smiled bitterly. She told me I was a loser. That I would never amount to anything. and that she hoped I'd rot in my mom's house forever. I'm sorry, son. Don't be. He looked at me. Because she was right about one thing. I was a loser, but I don't want to be one anymore. And if I have to lose her to stop being one, then so be it. I sat on the bed. Do you miss her? Sometimes. But more than her, I miss who I thought I was when I was with her. He closed the suitcase. I thought I was important, successful. But it was a lie. It was all money that wasn't mine. A house that wasn't mine. A life that wasn't mine. And now? Now I have a 10 by 10 room, a job that pays $600 every 2 weeks, and a $62,000 debt. He let out a laugh. But it's mine. It's my life. For the first time in years, I felt pride, deep and real. Your father would be proud. He fell silent, his eyes filled with tears. You think so? I know so, because your father made mistakes, too. Lots of them. But he always got back up. He always tried. And that's what you're doing. He wiped his tears. Can I confess something to you? Of course. For years, I hated you. Not all the time, but sometimes I did, because you were always perfect. The perfect nurse, the perfect mother, the one who did everything right. And I could never measure up. I was always the son who needed help. The sick son, the son who cost money, son. And when I met Jessica, she made me feel enough. Like I didn't have to be perfect. Like I could just be. He took a deep breath. But the truth is, she didn't love me. She loved what I could give her. And when I couldn't give her any more, she left. Not all women are like that. I know, because you're not like that. You could have left. You could have let me fall when all this started. But you didn't. You gave me one last chance. And that, Mom, nobody else would have done that. He hugged me again. And in that hug was everything. The forgiveness, the pain, the love, the hope. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the moving truck arrived. Well, it was not really a truck. It was a friend's pickup that Ethan had hired for $20. Between the two of us, we loaded his things. There were not many. A disassembled bed, boxes of clothes, a few pieces of furniture. The neighbors watched us from their windows. Mrs. Gable from next door came out. Is the boy leaving, Grace? Yes, Mrs. Gable. He's moving out on his own. Oh, that's good. It's about time. A man should stand on his own 2 feet. She looked at Ethan. You work hard, son, and visit your mother often. She needs you. I will, Mrs. Gable, I promise. When we finished loading everything, Ethan stood in front of the house, looking at it, as if he were seeing it for the first time, or the last. I grew up here, he said softly. I took my first steps here. I had nightmares here, and you would calm me down. I ate breakfast here before school every day for 20 years. He turned to me. This house is my story, and I'm going to miss it. It will always be here. And so will I know. But it won't be the same. And that's okay, because it's what I need. He got into the truck. See you on Sunday, okay? For lunch. I'll be waiting. I'll make your favorite. Pot roast? Whatever you want. He smiled. He closed the truck door, and he left. I stood there, on the sidewalk, watching him drive away, and when the truck turned the corner and disappeared, something inside me let go. I cried. But not from sadness, from relief. Because finally, I had let my son go. Not because I did not love him, but because loving him meant letting him grow. Even if it hurt. Even if it left me alone. 6 months later, I am sitting in my living room. My house is quiet, but it is no longer a heavy silence. It is a peaceful silence. Ethan comes every Sunday, as he promised. Sometimes he brings food. Sometimes we cook together. He tells me about his job, about his coworkers, about how he is saving money. He has already paid me $2,000 of his debt. Small payments, but consistent. Last week he told me something that filled my heart. Mom, I met someone. Her name is Megan. She works at the bakery on the corner of my street. She's a good person. Not like, well, you know. And what does Megan do? She works, she studies at night. Business administration. She wants to open her own business someday. He smiled. I like that she has her own dreams, that she doesn't need me to solve her life for her. I'd like to meet her. I'll bring her soon. But, slowly. I'm taking everything slowly now, and that gave me more joy than anything else. Jessica tried to come back 3 months ago. She showed up at the door, crying, saying she had made a mistake, that she loved Ethan, that he should forgive her. But Ethan told her something I will never forget. I have nothing to forgive you for. You taught me something important. You taught me that love isn't labels on a refrigerator. It's not staying with someone because it's comfortable. It's choosing every day to be there. And you didn't choose me. You chose my house, my money, my comfort. And when that was gone, you were gone too. So thank you. But no, she left in tears. And Ethan came back into the house. He hugged me. Thank you for not letting me fall back into the same trap. I didn't do anything. You did it on your own. No, I did it because you taught me. With force, with lawsuits, with pain. But you taught me. Today is Sunday. I made pot roast, Ethan's favorite. I also invited Brenda. And my sister Carol, who came from Chicago. Ethan arrived with Megan. A pretty girl, with warm eyes and a shy smile. Mom, this is Megan. It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Ethan has told me so much about you. I hope good things. Only good things, she said with sincerity. He told me how you saved him. Not just when he was a boy. Now, too, I didn't save him. He saved himself. Ethan looked at me. No, Mom. You saved me. By letting me fall. It was the shock I needed to wake up. We ate together. We laughed. We talked. And at that table, surrounded by my son who had finally found his way, I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had finally done the right thing. I loved my son enough not to save him anymore. And in that act of tough love, of love that hurts but heals, I truly saved him. That night, after everyone had left, I sat in my living room. I looked around. There were no more yellow labels. No more tension. No more hate. There was just a house. My house. The house I bought with my own effort. The house I defended with my dignity. And I realized something. True wealth is not in what you possess. It is in what you refuse to let them take from you. Your dignity. Your respect. Your self-worth. No one can take that away from you, unless you let them. And I was never going to let them again. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you are watching from. Give it a like if you believe that sometimes to love is to let go. And subscribe to keep hearing real stories of women who did not give up in the face of injustice. Because true strength is not in putting up with everything. It is in knowing when to say, this is it, and to get back up, again and again and again, until your dignity is yours once more. The end.